Ali Baba was a poor woodcutter in a small town in Persia. His brother Qasim had married a rich wife and lived a life of ease. But Ali Baba had to work hard to earn his living. Just the same, he was cheerful and well liked. While Ali Baba was cutting wood one day, he heard the sound of many horses nearby. As everyone knew there to be a fierce band of robbers in the area, Ali Baba hid his donkeys and climbed a tree for safety. He was just in time, for they were indeed robbers, and they stopped near the very spot where Ali Baba was hiding. The man waited while their leader dismounted, and having looked about him, but unfortunately not above him, he strode over to a large rock. Raising his arms, he said loudly, "Open sesame." To Ali Baba's astonishment, the wall of the rock split open, and the robbers disappeared inside carrying their saddlebags. The door shut after the last man and remained closed for some time, but Ali Baba dared not climb down from his uncomfortable hiding place. Just as he was wondering whether to stretch his legs, he saw the robbers emerge from the rock. This time Ali Baba counted them. There were 40, including the captain, and noticed that the saddlebags were now empty. When all the men had ridden away, Ali Baba jumped down and examined the rock, which appeared quite solid. Remembering the captain's words, he shouted, "Open sesame." It worked. The door rumbled open, and Ali Baba rather hesitantly stepped inside into the darkness. But dark though it was, he could see, shining and sparkling in the cave, such treasure he had never imagined: chests of diamonds, coffers of gold coins, silver jugs, and jeweled swords. So this was where the 40 thieves had hidden their spoils. It didn't take Ali Baba long to realize he could now be a rich man like his brother. Worried in case the robbers returned, he quickly caught his donkeys, emptied the wood baskets, and half filled them with gold, which he covered with logs. He ordered the cave to close as the captain had done, then hurried home to tell his wife the wonderful news. She too was amazed at his good luck, but was worried that the robbers might come after her husband to get back the gold. She persuaded Ali Baba to count it, then hide it in the garden and use only a little at a time so no one would be suspicious of their sudden wealth. But there were far too many coins to count, so Ali Baba suggested they borrow his brother's measure to save time. When Qasim's wife agreed to lend the measure, she couldn't help wondering why her brother in law should need it, for everyone knew how poor he was. Out of curiosity, she fixed a small piece of wax to the bottom of the measure. When the measure was returned, Qasim and his wife were astonished to see a solid gold coin stuck to the wax. How can it be that my woodcutter brother, who has never had two brass coins to rub together, now has so many of these gold pieces that he must borrow a measure to count them? Wondered the jealous Qasim. I must follow him tomorrow and find out what my dear brother does when he is supposed to be cutting wood. This he did, unknown to Ali Baba, who led him to the robber's cave. From his hiding place, Qasim watched and heard his brother speak the magic words. "Open sesame." Then he saw the rock part and Ali Baba step inside. Almost too excited to keep quiet, Qasim waited for his brother to reappear. When he did so, he was carrying several leather bags which Qasim felt sure contained more gold coins. Ali Baba ordered the door to close. loaded his donkeys as before, and set off into the forest, the way he had come. Out of hiding, Qasim ran to the rock and, remembering what Ali Baba had said, shouted, "Open sesame!" Sure enough, the magic worked for him too, and in the dark cave he found the thieves' hidden treasure. Wonderful, marvelous, shrieked the greedy Qasim, who was already quite rich enough. He raced from gold to silver, from diamond to emeralds, filling as many bags as he could. But this took some time, and Qasim's mind was so full of how he would spend his new wealth that when at last he was ready to leave the cave, he couldn't remember the magic words to open the door. "Open, sizzle," he tried. When this failed, he tried again. "Open, Savoy," and then in desperation, "Open, sausage." But the door, of course, remained shut fast. Later that day, as they always did, the robbers returned to their cave. As the door opened at the captain's command, out rushed Qasim straight into the arms of the thieves, who killed him instantly. They were puzzled to know how anyone else could have discovered a way into the secret cave, and in case Qasim had not been alone, the captain ordered his body to be cut into four pieces and left just inside the cave door as a warning. This was done. When Qasim hadn't returned that evening, his wife was so worried she went to Ali Baba and confessed that they had found out about the gold. She told him how Qasim had set out to follow Ali Baba that morning and hadn't come home again. Ali Baba offered to search for Qasim, but he felt sure the robbers must have discovered his brother. When he opened the door to the cave, he saw he had been right. Although he was very upset, Ali Baba had to work quickly in case the thieves returned and caught him too. He loaded his brother's body onto the donkeys and hurried home in the dark. He broke the terrible news to Qasim's wife and told her how important it was the robbers didn't find out that he too knew the secret of the cave. For safety, he asked their faithful servant, Morgiana, to find someone reliable who could sew Qasim's body together before he was buried so that everyone would think that he had died naturally. Morgiana knew an old shoe mender nearby who was short sighted but very trustworthy, and she offered him a piece of the gold if he would do as she asked. Baba Mustafa, for that was the old man's name, agreed, and that night was led blindfolded to Qasim's house, where he did as he had promised. Meanwhile, the captain of the robbers had returned to the cave. He was amazed to find that Qasim's body had been removed. "Now I'm sure there must be more than one who knows our secret," he thought. "Somehow I must find him and silence him forever." As he didn't hear gossip in the next few days about any unusual deaths in the town, he realized the parts of Qasim's body must have been sewn together before the funeral. He therefore went quietly to the tailor, the dressmaker, and lastly to the shoe mender to ask in a roundabout way if they had done any sewing recently that was different and sacred. At first, Baba Mustafa wouldn't talk, but he was poor, and two gold pieces eventually loosened his tongue. He agreed to be blindfolded once more and to try and find the house to which he had been led. That evening, when most people were eating their supper, the robber captain and Baba Mustafa made their way slowly through the streets of the town. Ah, yes, said Baba Mustafa suddenly. This is the way. I remember how uneven the path was just here. He stopped outside Qasim's house where Ali Baba and his wife now also lived. This is the very house. The thief was delighted and very pleased with his own cleverness. He thanked Baba Mustafa and paid him the promised gold piece. So that he would remember the house, he marked the door with a large cross, then crept away to fetch his man. Luckily, however, Morgiana had been out to borrow some salt and she returned just after the robber captain had left. She saw the painted cross on the door but couldn't think of the reason for it, being very cunning and remembering what had recently happened to Qasim. She marked several other doors in the street in the same way. In the middle of the night, when everyone else was asleep, the robber captain returned with his band of men. This is the house, he said proudly. I know, because I marked the door with this cross. Imagine his fury when the robbers pointed out crosses on the doors of the other houses each side. There was nothing they could do but creep back to the forest and think of another plan to trap Ali Baba. The robber captain was now even more determined to find the man who knew the secret of the cave, and he swore not to rest until they had caught and killed him. He went back to Baba Mustafa and, with the promise of 4 gold pieces this time, was again led to the house where Ali Baba was now living. But this time, the captain took no chances. He examined the front of the house so carefully that there could be no second mistake. Returning to his band of men who were awaiting their orders in the forest hideout, he told them of his plan to get into Ali Baba's house. They were to hide inside some empty oil jars slung over the back of a team of donkeys. Only one jar was to be full of oil to fool Ali Baba if he became suspicious. Then, pretending to be a weary oil merchant, the robber captain made his way to Ali Baba's house to ask for lodgings for the night. Ali Baba was pleased to help a tired traveler, for he didn't recognize the captain in his disguise. Later that evening, before he went to bed, the captain crept into the courtyard where the donkeys were tied and carefully lifted the jars to the ground, telling each robber inside that he would tap on his jar when the time came to attack. Morgiana, Ali Baba's servant, was in the kitchen preparing the next day's meal when her lamp dimmed and went out. No oil in the lamp and none in the cupboard. She said crossly to herself, what shall I do? But wait, there's plenty in the merchant's jar. I'll use some of that tonight and the master can pay him for it tomorrow. But when she tapped the first jar to see if it was full of oil, the robber, within thinking that it was his captain's signal, answered, ready, sir. Morgiana soon realized what was happening when she went from the jar to the next and the next and heard the same words from every hidden robber. Finding the real jar of oil, at last she took it back to the kitchen and heated it on the fire until the oil boiled. She then carefully poured a measure of boiling oil into each robber's jar. Then she hid in the shadows to see what would happen next. Sincerely, 10 minutes later, she heard the captain of the robbers creep down into the courtyard. Hearing no answer from the first jar, he tapped. He peered inside. He could scarcely believe what he found in the jar and in all the others. Now he was alone. He cursed Ali Baba and swore he would spend the rest of his life, if necessary, getting even with him. He returned to the forest, and so determined and angry was he that another plan had taken shape before the night was over. He went back to the city next morning and by midday had found what he was looking for, an empty shop in the marketplace. Pretending to be a shopkeeper, he spread out before him some clothes and pots, then sat down to wait for Ali Baba, for he knew that everyone in the town came to market at some time. Sure enough, after a few days, he saw Ali Baba stop at a nearby stall. He spent a long time talking to the young man who ran the stall without buying anything. When Ali Baba had left, the robber stopped the young man and began to chat to him in a friendly way. He soon learned that this was Ali Baba's son and that Ali Baba came often to talk to him in the market square. The cunning thief was very charming, and Ali Baba's son was as good natured and trusting as his father. Soon he believed he had found a new friend. When his father next came to see him, Ali Baba's son introduced him to his new friend. For a second time, Ali Baba didn't recognize the robber and shook his hand warmly. My son has few friends, he said. We should be honored if you will be our guest at dinner this evening. The robber, of course, accepted readily. This was exactly what he had been hoping for. However, when he arrived at the house that evening, clever Morgiana saw through the robber's disguise and was sure why he had come. While the men were drinking their wine and talking before the meal, Morgiana disguised herself as a dancer with veiled headdress and satin belt. Into the white belt she slipped a silver dagger. As Morgiana danced, the music grew faster and faster. She whirled around the room with veils flying and stopped in front of the disguised robber. In a flash, she drew the dagger from her belt and plunged it deep into his chest, while Ali Baba and his son looked on in amazement. Of course, once Morgiana had explained who the merchant was and why he had come, Ali Baba couldn't thank her enough. You saved my life 3 times. What can I give you? He asked. Anything I have is yours. Let me have my freedom, answered the servant. That is what I most wish for. Very soon there was a wedding in the family, for Ali Baba's son and Morgiana had loved one another for a long time, and now she was no longer a servant. They were able to marry. So Ali Baba lived for many, many years, enjoying the treasure he had found in the robber's cave.